y'all. Hey, welcome back to another episode of Everybody Knows Somebody Who Knows Something About It. I am that somebody, and today the something we are talking about is financial planners. I am Jay Stevens, the happy founder and CEO of My Wealth Journey LLC, and today we are joined by Zenith Wealth Partners' very own partner, Chelsea Ransom-Cooper. Now, before we get into this lovely interview, I'm going to give you a little bit of background on Chelsea. And don't worry, we're going to get a lot more throughout this. Chelsea is the head of wealth management and financial planning at Zenith Wealth Partners. Prior to becoming a managing partner, Chelsea spent several years as a financial planner serving families with investment portfolios upwards of $2 million. While working in an industry traditionally gatekept for wealthy retirees, truth in that, Chelsea realized that she could help more diverse clientele, catch that, make life-changing financial decisions before they reach retirement age. At Zenith Wealth Partners, Chelsea guides clients through their financial life by discussing the why behind each of their financial goals. And you know how important we think it is to understand the motivation behind your goals here at My Wealth Journey. So I am so glad to see that Chelsea embeds that into her process. Chelsea recognizes that financial planning is a marathon, not a sprint, and through ongoing relationships with her clients, she strategically develops financial plans that fit their present and future lifestyles. Now, she is not just doing this because she can do it. She is credentialed. Y'all listen to these skills. She has graduated from Syracuse University with a Bachelor of Science in Finance. She obtained her financial planning certificate from NYU, and that's just not any old school. New York University is serious. In addition, Chelsea was recognized as the Association of African American Financial Advisors, Quad A, 50 under 50 financial professionals. Do you know how hard it is? First off, it's not a lot. It's not a lot of Black people, a lot of African Americans and financial advisors. And then to be within the 50, among the 50, she also sits on the Young Whitman Advisory Council for Whitman School of Management at Syracuse University, giving back to her alma mater. And throughout the tax season, she continues to give back by volunteering in NYC with the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program. I used to do that. That's where you prepare free tax returns for people that are low income, immigrants, non-English speakers, seniors, self-employed, the people that sometimes just get overlooked, but definitely still have to pay taxes. With all of that, you can tell we have someone of power and intelligence in the seat with us today. So I am glad to be here. Thank you, Chelsea, for joining us. Thank you,
Jay, and thank you for that awesome introduction. I need
it's you.
I was like, that was great.
That was you. See, you were great. I'm going to be hyping you up this whole thing because I think you are fabulous, and I'm honored that you are sitting down and talking with me, even though it's virtual. And I would love for us to just be able to key and sit together. But I'm so happy you're here. So let's get started. First question for you. The first question we ask everyone. What is your wealth journey? Tell us about yourself and how you got to this point in your life.
Absolutely. And my wealth journey was not a clear path. I'm going to say that first and foremost. I wish I could say that I grew up and was like, yes, I know I am going to be a certified financial planner, and this is exactly where I'm going to be. But that was not the case at all. Actually, when I went to school, my family really has a big background in music. So I always thought I was going to go into something more creative, like advertising, music management was always kind of my path and my strategy. But I was always really good with numbers. I was always the person who excelled in math, A pluses. It was my strong suit. So I kind of started shifting into like the finance and accounting profession. But I was a little discouraged, honestly, going into this because I feel like there's always this presentation of like this guy with his glasses and his pocket protector and a white t-shirt sitting at a desk crunching numbers all day. And I was like, that is not me. Like, that is not how I see my life. And that's not how I see my future. But I knew I did like talking and running the numbers and looking at the numbers. So I was like, there has to be a way for these to connect where it's like still fun. And I'm still working with people that I would enjoy working with. Hadn't figured it out, but I ended up going into public accounting just naturally after I graduated college. And I kind of did that job. I didn't have the pocket protector, I will say, but I sat in an office without windows and crunched numbers. And I was like, this is not what I saw for myself. But at the same time, I graduated and I had student loans. And my friends had student loans, and my parents never had student loans or even knew how to kind of navigate that. So a lot of people started coming to me because they knew I was a finance major, and they said, Chelsea, like, how do we navigate this? Like, we have these loans, we just got our first apartment, credit cards. How do we maneuver with all these different vehicles? And I was like, don't worry, guys, I will figure it out for us and I will report back to you. And that's kind of what I did while I was working there. And then I started getting feedback. They were like, this is so helpful that even like you're just able to do this research and come back to us. And it was so rewarding to me, even if it was just Googling some things and giving them some context. It was really rewarding for me knowing that, number one, there really wasn't anyone else for them to connect to, so that I was able to kind of be that resource and be helpful. Really always motivated me. I always say that I want to be the advisor that my mom and my parents could have had 30 years ago. That's always kind of what pushes me. So after I did that with a few of my friends, I started talking to people about like, what does a career in financial planning look like? Like, what would you even do? And that's where I started going into the rabbit hole of what is like the wirehouses. So like Fidelity, Charles Schwab, working at an investment company. What would it be like working at an insurance company like a Northwestern Mutual or Mass Mutual? And then what would it look like in some of these more boutique areas of like wealth management or financial planning, where you're doing it kind of on like a fee basis? So I literally talked to people all across all three of them. And then that's when I really figured out, okay, I want to be able to work with people, number one, on like a fee basis. So I don't want to necessarily have to sell anything, but I want to help them and be an inspiration towards them on their financial journey, wherever they are, no matter the assets that they have. So that's exactly what I went into doing. Specifically, I worked in a wealth management firm for a little over 4 years, working with ultra high net worth, but I knew the whole time that I was there just to learn. I wanted to learn how they got to that wealth level, because our typical client, as you mentioned, had at least $2 million. So I wanted to know, how did they get to that point? How are they sustaining their wealth? And I knew that I would be able to then be able to either move to another company or start my own, where I would be able to take those strategies and then bring them back to kind of the community that inspired me to be a certified financial planner in the first place. And that's similarly around the time that we met, when I think I was about 6 to 7 months in to this journey at Zenith Wealth Partners, where we're a fee-only financial planning professional firm, as you mentioned. And that's exactly who we service. So it's been an exciting ride to this point, and so far I'm enjoying the journey.
I love it. And we need to give you your flowers, because there were a few important things that people that I think we're told we go to college and we should just know what we're going to do. And that's such a young point, an early point in your life, to know everything and to say I'm not, and to feel like you're stuck into something. But instead of letting that overwhelm you, you said, I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to do the research. And then on top of that, I'm going to be flexible. I'll pivot, and I will go into a role that will allow me to build up the skills, the understanding, the credentials, to then be able to take this back to the people that I really care about, and the audience and the group that I want to support. That's how you really put your money where your mouth is, in your heart. Like I love. That's something like you're such a good person. I guess I'm so excited for you. Okay, so you mentioned some terms like fee-based. And I know, as much as you and I love to talk about the world of finance and like what that means for people, this is a topic that can be very intimidating for people. It's especially so much. We talked earlier about the importance of understanding your why, and so much of what people understand in finance comes from what they've experienced as a child. Whether or not their parents were good with money, whether or not they saw their family argue over money, or they always felt like they had to kind of do more with less. And that mentality is pervasive. So when people get to the point that they want to understand finance, it's confusing. It's like I'm a financial coach, which is different from financial planner. Financial coach is basics. It is like, what's the budget? What is the behavioral patterns behind finance? Certified financial planners. The term certified alone lets you know some gravitas on that.
Right.
So can you educate and inform the listeners? What is a certified financial planner? When do you need one? And what do you look for in one? Like, how do you know this is the time to go forth and catch up and get with a CFP? And then how do I know I have the right one for me?
Absolutely. And I think you're starting off with a financial coach is excellent because that really is the first place to get started. You need to understand how your money moves, how your cash moves in, moves out, and then what trends you have before we can even get to some of those more complex topics. So I always encourage people to start with a financial coach because it's the greatest first place to start and make sure that you have your kind of house in order where you understand, okay, how does my money move and how do I control my finances, at least like on a monthly basis? A certified financial planner does have a little gravitas, as you mentioned, but specifically what it is it's a comprehensive financial planner. You have to go through an education program, take an exam, and be a financial professional for a certain amount of years to get this credential. At that point, you have really kind of exuded yourself as a holistic professional. So what that includes is estate planning. So thinking about your will, your legacy, kind of the non-fun concepts there, insurance, understanding your investment portfolio and how this will help you reach your goals, thinking about taxes and how you can minimize your tax liability and then just optimize them as well. And then also thinking about retirement. We all know that there's kind of this ending point where we won't want to work as much as we are potentially right now. So making sure you have a plan in place for that retirement, or how I like to call it is like a work optional lifestyle. Whenever that moment is for you, making sure you have a plan in place for that. And then any other goals that come around also, especially for younger people, there's a lot of life between now and retirement. So making sure that you understand for all those other milestones of getting married, having kids, buying a home, maybe buying multiple homes. How do you do all those things and make sure that you're making impactful financial decisions that aren't going to set yourself back in the future potentially? So that's really what the value add of a comprehensive financial planner is I create those plans. And then as I'm working with people, we pivot as life kind of throws us curveballs. As you get a new job or you add a new member to your family, we readjust. And it's a really nice way of knowing that, number one, you have a professional that understands you, understands your goals, your values, and your family, but also understands the technical expertise, right? So how the kind of the landscape is changing. Tax rates and tax laws change at a very frequent basis, almost with every administration. Also, the investment landscape changes. Crypto is a thing today. If you talk to an advisor 10 to 15 years ago, wouldn't have even been a thought. So making sure that you understand like what are the best options for your investment portfolio and what works for you. I say when you're thinking about a financial professional, really it's two things. You want innovation, so new ideas and concepts that are going on, but also accountability. Somebody that's going to make sure that you stick to your plan and you understand what your North Star is so that you stay focused. When you're thinking about when to hire this professional, I think it comes down to kind of transitions. So as I mentioned before, merging finances, if you're getting married, if your family is growing, if you kind of go and come into a windfall, let's say like an inheritance, or you work at a company where you get a really big pay increase or bonus, or now you were comfortable with how you were, but now this is a new chapter and a new shift, and you don't feel as confident going into this, it may be the right time to start having a conversation with a certified financial planner just to make sure that you're maximizing your choices.
That is perfect. And I think it sums it up so neatly in that this is a relationship, but you set that foundation and then you continue to communicate as life changes. As you have moments when there's the hills and the valleys in your financial journey, in your wealth journey. And I think having a certified financial planner is equivalent to having a doctor or having a therapist. Like, you shouldn't just go to the doctor when things are really falling apart, when you're brushing your teeth and you're like, oh, a whole tooth fell out.
Right.
that is not when you call the dentist or the doctor. Like, I think my body is not doing right. You should be having, regular annual exam with your doctor. And then it's like, okay, we want to grow our family, or I'm thinking I need to have this routine screening so that they understand you. And it's the same with the therapist. You should have some type of routine of, I'm checking in on like a doctor does your physical health, a therapist is your mental and emotional health and your psyche of, these are things that upset me or trigger me, or these the things that encourage me. And I realized that this year we have been in a pandemic and there's a lot going on in the world. And so this is a moment when I need to lean into this more and I need to take care of the health. In the same way, a certified financial planner, notice again, certification, don't just let anybody in your wallet.
That's true.
A certified financial planner is, we have this goal. I would like to retire at 60 something, but honestly, if I'm willing to put in the extra work, I can retire at 40 something. And now you see people that go viral on the interwebs and the socials because they're like, I retired in 25 and I only really worked 3 years, but I hustled and worked hard and stuck to the goal. Like you said, someone who gives you accountability and gives you motivation and develops this roadmap with you. But then as things transition, as things change, as families grow, you want to buy a house, you want to consider a different investment. So this is someone that you check in with, and they have the knowledge, they have the training, again, because they're certified, to give you that answer, to give you the guidance. So it really is important. It's not something that you can start with. As Chelsea mentioned, it's something that needs to be, you need to have your financial house in order, whether it's with working with the certified or working with a financial coach, or just knowing what to do on your own. But once you get to that place of, okay, I can cover my bills and I can plan for my annual family trip or whatever, but how do I level this up? How do I make sure I'm ready for retirement? That's when you engage a financial planner, which I just love. Again, certified financial planner.
Exactly.
Okay. So you found, it's Women's History Month. We love it.
Yes.
We love it, girl power. You founded Women in Equity as a community to empower women founders and women in tech. The organization encourages companies to pay women in equity. Now, absolutely. You know, I'm about to say, I know what pay equity.
We know what that will mean.
Who might not know that term. Some people, they're used to hourly or salaried compensation. What does it mean for you when you say pay women in equity, and why does that even matter?
Great question. So, of course, we all know when Beyonce said, pay me in equity and watch me reverse out of debt, of course. But what is equity? Equity is an appreciating asset, right? So we know when we get paid in cash, it's a fixed amount. If they tell you you're going to make $60,000 in June, it's going to be $60,000 throughout the entire time until they change it. The value of number one, equity, is that it's an appreciating asset. It's an asset where the value has the potential to change significantly. So when we think about compensation structures, I think we've been trained specifically on what is my salary? What is my hourly rate? What am I going to get? But understanding that companies are evolving, they're starting to offer some additional aspects where there's commissions, there's bonuses, but then there's also equity where you can receive it in a company. And this actually isn't even being strictly held to tech companies anymore. I'm seeing food, retail, a bunch of different industries, even financial services are starting to offer equity as a part of the compensation package. It's actually also statistically known that women receive lower amounts of equity and also are less likely to negotiate their equity. So why is that important? Well, it's actually really important because, as I mentioned, equity has the potential to appreciate. When we're thinking about the stock market, which on average, let's say all stock portfolio could be like around 10% year over year, by owning something in equity, and if it continues to appreciate on an annualized rate, you have the potential for it to grow 10% year over year by not even doing anything, just by being the owner. And that's something very valuable, where with cash, it's pretty fixed. So when you're getting paid in equity and when you're having that, you're able to get significantly more money into your pocket than you would if it was just a traditional cash bonus. Specifically, if you look at some of these private companies or even on social media, they like to show, oh, when Amazon was private before they went, they were $100 and now it's close to $2,000 a share, right? That's the value of appreciating equity. And if you're at a company where it's offering that, it's really important to understand how you can utilize that to push yourself further and to maximize your growth and your goals. So that's something that I've been on a journey of, Jay, is just educating more women to understand how this can feed into your financial plan, but also how this can push you towards your goals. So we've actually done, before the pandemic, I was doing a few events, and I'm excited in April, actually going to do our first in-person event. It'll be in New York City. but having women come in together and having a conversation about understanding what your equity is and also being transparent around it as well. So how do you feel confident that you're, number one, getting the best option for you, but number two, you know how to negotiate and get in that room and make sure that you're getting what you're valued at and what you're worth. So it's an exciting conversation. And it's an exciting group that I'm excited to be a part of, along with my clients too.
That is great. And please let us know where and when. I'll drop it in the description for those of you who are watching this, if the link is out yet, where people can register for that. Because you're right, like if a company even offers equity, sometimes you just take what you get because you think you can't negotiate. I found, on the contrary, they won't always negotiate the salary, even though I always push for asking more, but they will negotiate the equity there, because there's pay bands, and there's they say bands of what can be paid through compensation based on your level. But equity, it's the wild, wild west. You could say like, oh, I want 50% of my equity in the first year, because there's also companies that will give you equity, but they'll say it's over 4 years. So you only get like 10% of the equity the first year, and then you have to work 4 more years before you get the rest. And it's still something. But if your plan is to get into this company, learn what you need to learn and move on, are you really trying to defer that much of your compensation? So that's a place where you could negotiate. Also, equity, still part of like building that retirement plan. That is something that after you leave the company, you still own it. It is yours, clear and free. And depending on how your taxes are set up, it doesn't impact you the same way that your compensation will. Like you're taxed on an equity differently. You still have to pay taxes because the government's always going to get their cut, but the taxation on it is a little different. So it's something where you can get the benefit, you can get the money, and it's just like, okay, in my mind, I almost sometimes treat it as savings, because I do receive equity, and I'm like, I am setting this aside when there are things in my life that I want to have a large sum of money available. This is an opportunity. This is something that I can tap into. But it's not something that I'm trying to spend on a day-to-day basis. My salary should cover that. And then my wealth journey, my side hustle should cover it as well.
Well, I think also what you're talking about with your goals is spot on. Like over the past few years, I've seen people who've been able to put a down payment on a home because of that equity, where it's been able to appreciate, or they worked at a company that went public, and we're talking about 10%, but when companies go public, it can 2x, 5x, 10x, which is significantly higher. And that's money that can kind of be like day and night. That's the money you can pay off your student loans. That's the money you can pay off your credit cards. That's the money that you can even kind of help your family just set up with even more success. So all of that, I think you're spot on. And the taxes, because the IRS they always find something. I feel like that's the one thing everyone's like, how do they take taxes when I didn't even sell it yet? And it's like, because they gave it to you, and the IRS is always going to find a way to tax you, especially on those RSUs and on certain types of stock options. So, yes, but I think that's another episode.
Yeah, that's part 2. They're going to get the cut. And for educational purposes, RSU, restricted stock unit. So that's just another term for equity that's used within the industry. It is a synonym. Don't worry about it. Now you can walk around tomorrow and say, I learned RSUs, and humble brag. Okay. So this is a broad question, and we talked about the fact that it is Women's History Month. So there are so many situations where women are at a disadvantage financially, whether it's equal pay, whether it's having to be the ones who typically take off for maternity leave, whether it's even having the power and the mindset to negotiate, getting promoted. If they start their own business, getting funding to start their own business, they're more likely to be looked over for funding opportunities. So with the number of things, and then also we tend to have to buy a lot of the stuff for the house. Like we're the ones that are like, not only should we pay bills, but we actually need to have soap and groceries, like basic stuff in the house. Not to say men don't think that. Men aren't walking around hungry and dirty and soapless, but it's something that women tend to think of and plan for in a different way. So with all of the things that women have to carry and plan for financially, what advice do you have for women when it comes to managing their personal finances?
Yeah, well, I think the really interesting point is when we think about pre-pandemic, I feel like we were seeing a lot of percentages, right? Like women are underinvested, women are not saving enough, women are really at a financial deficit and compared to men. I think it's interesting that kind of during this social media kind of, I feel like push around 2020 before, actually like newest research shows that like the next generation of women investors, so I'd say Gen Z and millennials, have the most money saved and invested than any other generation of women. I think that's an incredibly empowering statistic to even just know that, because I've been feeling it, especially with my clients and the amount of women who have reached out and they're like, I want to make a change. I want to make sure I'm on the right path. So it was also really encouraging to see like the statistics aligned with that as well. And specifically also in the past, they said fear and anxiety were the biggest kind of emotions that women felt when it came to their finances. But now we're starting to see more people feel confident and joy around their finances, which I think is a beautiful, beautiful transition that honestly, both of us have to say we played a part in, just as on our financial journeys and how we're working with people as well. I think for, let's say, anyone else who's like, I'm ready to get started, but I'm a little bit nervous. I always say, when it comes to finances, it is not all or nothing. Do not feel like you need to know everything before you can get started. There are small steps you can take where it just feels a little bit digestible. For me, I like to do on Sundays. Sundays, I review my cash flow and my finances. If it's a busy time, I'll do it at the end of the month. Just smaller things where it doesn't feel as overbearing of, oh, I need to look at everything and, oh, this is too much. But keep it in small bite size, but also make the commitment to yourself that you're going to put yourself on a future of financial success. And I'm really big into affirmations. So I feel like once you put that out in the air, that you are going to commit to yourself and to your own financial success, the rest will follow. Really try not to get too focused on knowing everything. Like I said, make that commitment to yourself. On the other side, I would say, as women, we are great savers. I've been working with a lot of women for a lot of years, and even a lot of my clients right now, they are excellent at saving. If I tell them a number, they will get to it. They have the hustle. They know what to do. What I've noticed is when it comes to the investing, that's where we get a little bit nervous because that's risk. That's a little bit risky. Even though I know I'm losing money towards inflation in my savings, it feels safe. I feel comfortable knowing it's there. I know how to get it out. I know where the ATM is. So I think that's another step where just getting more comfortable taking on risk and understanding the waves of investing, right? Things are going to go up, things are going to go down, but we never lose money until we sell. So we hold on and we wait, and understanding that we really have a lot of power as investors. Like women, I think it was, I'm trying to remember the statistic, but specifically for asset management firms, which are run by like women chief investment officers, their returns are significantly better than their male counterparts. So all that to say, women are awesome investors. We are great. And we have to give ourselves a little bit more like pat on the back and some more kudos where we know the trends. We can tell what companies are doing well. I will say this is not advice, but specifically for me, like I love Target. You can't get me out of a Target for anything. I think they're doing excellent work in regard to highlighting Black businesses. I know that they have increased their pay of their employees. I know that it's clean when I go in there. It feels nice. Like these are all things, feelings where you can say, okay, you know what? Let me look at how the stock is performing. Let me look at how fundamentally it's doing. Or let me look at some ETFs or mutual funds that hold Target, that hold companies that I like, and get started investing there. There's nothing wrong with getting started with familiarity and then kind of maneuvering from there.
That was so good. So I'm going to try to recap it. And again, to make sure this disclaimer, if I could, I would have it like slide across the
right.
screen right now. This is not financial advice. We are not telling you to go invest in Target. Speak with your financial planner. Chelsea is taking clients. If you are interested in hiring her, speak with your financial planner before making investment decisions. This is general advice of how to proceed. And in that general advice, some of the things that Chelsea hit, women tend to do very well in saving, which is true. We can see that number and we can build towards it. We are more hesitant with investing, and that stems from the anxiety, the fear, the good old boys club, the language, the nomenclature that's used that makes it feel like we are an outsider, and that imposter syndrome sits tight and sits deep within us. And so we just feel like stricken from moving forward and making a decision. It is okay to not know. It's a lot of people. And actually, even if someone ever tells you they know everything in finance, don't believe them, go the opposite direction. Because there's always some new tool, some new software, some new investment, something that is popping up, some new bank. So no one will ever know it all, but there are general concepts and principles that will hold you steady and will get you to your goals. So being comfortable with the uncomfortable, knowing that you are smart, knowing that it's okay risk is okay. Knowing what your level of risk is that's acceptable, and being able to say like, hey, this is how much I am willing to kind of put myself out there, to put my investments out there. But knowing that someone will respect that boundary, that's also something you should look for in a financial planner. Someone who listens to you when you say, this is what I'm willing to do, this is what I'm not willing to do. So we are better at managing risk. We are also better at, and I'm not saying better like the men just completely fell off on this,
right?
We have natural inclination towards, and you're right. There was an article that came out that did say women who manage hedge funds, they outperform their male counterparts. I'm actually going to post that. I have it pulled up to post. I was like, maybe I should do it for St. Patrick's Day. Like, it's not just luck. It's
right.
Luck. So by the time this episode,
that's a good point.
You'll be able to see if that's what the case was. But the point is, you are poised to do. Actually, this is a great time to point this way. The quote. I'm trying to get my finger there. It always seems impossible until it's done. That's Nelson Mandela. And the fact that it may seem impossible, it may seem daunting, but think of the alternative, that you're in retirement, right. You're at retirement age, and you don't have a plan. And that's real fear. At least if you start trying to tackle that now, trying to figure out a solution now, you have time on your side. But when you're at the point in your life when you want to sit back, and for me, I really want to get to that point sooner rather than later. If you're at the point in your life when you want to sit back, but you can't. I always have this image in my mind. I went to Hardee's, which is, I think, depending on where you are in the world, it's called Carl's Jr. But it's a fast food restaurant. This was years ago when I was like in, I think, elementary or middle school. But I went in and there was this little old lady who was working, and she had to be like in her 80s or 90s. Like, I mean, petite, hunched over. And I just kept thinking, why is she still having to work? And why work here? It could be that she wanted to have something to get her out of the house, which is great. Like, you should stay active, that keeps you healthy. But I in my mind, I just kept thinking, I hope she's not working here because she has no other choice. Like, she has to work, especially here when there's like a 17-year-old pimply face, snot-nosed kid telling you telling you to take out the trash. When it's like, you should be able to, I don't know, sit back, and if you want to work, have something that you want to do. And again, maybe she wanted to do that, but I just knew the idea of planning for retirement and planning for that next phase of your life, and getting your team together, getting your financial planner, your tax advisor, /CPA, to help you get these pieces together so you're not slinging fries and taking out trash at Hardee's, unless you want to, and you're
right. Unless you want to, no judgment if you want to.
If that's
but
your
you
thing,
shouldn't feel like you have to.
Right. Okay. And have to. The last question we're going to get to today. Men have to support us in this. We cannot be the only ones, and by we, I mean women, cannot be the only ones trying to move this forward. We need men at the table who are our allies, who say, yes, we should be paying women in equity and paying them the same amount or more, or as their male counterparts, and paying them in regards to the work and service they provide. We need people in Congress who are going to vote to change laws to make things equal pay. So there's a lot of things that men can do, but let's say you're not a man sitting in a position of power right now. Like, you're just some cool guy who happened to come across this YouTube channel, and you say, I'm going to listen in today for whatever reason. This particular topic stuck out to you. So what can the everyday guy do to help women in finance? Besides, of course, ask her Cash App and just give her money. And leave her alone. Don't ask her for anything. Just give her the money. Walk away like you deserve. But practically, what can they do?
Yeah. So specifically, I think it depends on where they are. So obviously, men who are in HR or working at these companies, be intentional about what you're offering and how you're supporting women specifically. I think you have to go above and beyond. And honestly, it's been one of my favorite things about working with my partner, Jason, is I can tell how intentional he is. Like little things where if we're on a call with somebody and they're only looking at him and they don't look at me, he's like, can you talk to Chelsea, please? Like, can you, like, those are the little things, men, where when you see these things, really call it out, and call a spade and say, hey, you know what, this is not how you should be talking to this person. This is not fair. This is not right. This is not equal in regard to what they should be, and equitable, of course. So I think that's the first place. Then also specifically thinking about men in finance, understand how to speak with women and work with women in your finances. It's one of the biggest complaints I get. And honestly, why I get a lot of clients, I'd say, is they've talked to somebody, whether it was their parents or somebody else, and they say, they only looked at my husband the whole time, or they told me I didn't have enough money, or they told me to just wait until I had a husband and then worry about my finances. Like, actually ridiculous things, Jay. It's offensive, number one, but also learn how to speak to people in a professional manner. I think the biggest thing I've learned with working with my women clients is they always just want to know and they want to learn, and understanding that having that education aspect of part of your process will just make the whole thing better. It will make your clients happier with working with you. It will keep them there longer. So being transparent and not condescending when you're having these conversations as well is incredibly important. So I think about that on the financial advisor side. I think about the other one on the HR side. But also I'll say investing in women-owned businesses. We need more of it. We need more of it. Jay, I think I mentioned to you, but we actually hosted our first inaugural pitch competition for Black women-owned businesses in December, and we're hosting another one, I think, in May. I will also let you know. But these are the things where we're being intentional about where we're giving our money and giving it back to the community, right? And we're bringing these big partners of these bigger, kind of more traditional, I'd say, asset and wealth management companies, and they're looking towards us as being a resource of like, how can we be impactful towards the community and being able to funnel that money, but knowing to have those conversations and bringing them in and being the liaison, I think is really important for us, but making sure that they understand as well, like, when you give it to them, it's on them. Like, you will not have control and understanding of all that. Like, truly let a Black woman business owner be a Black woman business owner. Don't try to control her. She's had already incredible success. We're resilient. And I always say that Black women will always be successful because we kind of don't have a choice. We don't really have a choice. Like, it's success or nothing. So we're going to be successful.
That is the money. Money response. There are all kinds of advice offered today, but the fact that we will be successful, that we naturally have this desire to push forward. We really don't have other options sometimes, so we are going to push forward. That's really good advice. Not mansplaining, not talking over a woman or talking right through her, beyond her. Using your position wherever it is to support, and to give opportunities, and to lobby for women, as we used to call them, table pounders, because they were the person who would like put their fist on the table like, no, she deserves this. But being the table pounder for someone who is, it doesn't, someone who is not getting the resources they deserve, whether it's based on age, gender, race, sexual orientation, religion. We know it's out there. So do what you can. Not you, Chelsea. You're already doing a lot. For the people that are watching right now, do what you can within your position. You definitely have power wherever you are to make a difference. And because of all the difference you are making, Chelsea, I know we have so many more things we could talk about, but unfortunately we are coming to a close. So yeah, I feel like there's going to need to be a part 2, like we'll come back in the fall or something, be like, so this is what happened. But I want to make sure people can follow you. I'm sure there's going to be people who want, now that they understand what a financial planner is, they're going to want to reach out. So how can they find you? How can they learn more about Zenith Wealth? Because it's not just you. Like you said, that you have your partner in the business. So how can they learn more about you and your company?
Absolutely. So you can find us as zenithwealth.partners. That's our website. And as I mentioned, we are a fee-only financial planning and investment advisory firm. It is not just myself. We are a team of 4 right now. We're actually hiring for 2 more. So we're a growing firm with a goal of really serving our community in regard to gender, age, and race-based inequality that wealth has caused. So using our knowledge, our services, and our guidance for that. So you can find us there. And then also personally, you can find me on Twitter is really where I like to spend the majority of my time. And it's at Chelsea_CFP. So you can find me there. And then also you can find Women with Equity on Twitter and Instagram as well.
Wonderful. Thank you for joining us today, Chelsea. It has been a pleasure as always. And we will be looking forward to, we are looking forward to seeing the many other things that you have coming up. Thank you.
Thank you.